Hello fellow chatterers and book lovers and anyone else who is curious or lost. I'm Chatty and welcome to my channel, Chatty the Mad Chatter. And today I'm doing my week 3 of April wrap up, which seems crazy. And again, it's one shot, we have no editing. Let's see how we go. So it's Sunday the 24th of April. I'm going to talk about all the books that I've read this week. Read one book. I'm still progressing with 2 others and I did start a 4th, so I'm getting there. But whether or not I end up passing my classes for the Aurelian Readathon or I am any help at all to the armies of Serain in the realm of the Readathon remains to be seen. So the books that I have read this week, not month: Ruin of Kings by Jen Lyons, hence why this is the only book I read, because it is a chunker. So this is the first book in the Chorus of Dragons series, which is an adult epic fantasy, and it is a reread for me. I read this last January. So I'm doing this book as part of a read along. I'm hoping to read all of the Chorus of Dragons books, and the final book, the 5th book, The Discord of Gods, is actually out in 4 days. That is the UK date. I don't have any other dates, but it is being released in the UK on Thursday, which will be the 28th of April. So that is very exciting. And technically I should have been reading Name of All Things this month because I should have read this last month, but I didn't get around to it. But it's absolutely fine. The conversation is still going on the Shelf Space Discord. Discord is basically like a chat room where you can talk about anything to do with a particular subject, and people have their different ones. So Shelf Space is a science fiction and fantasy themed reading space. So there are lots of buddy reads going on in there, and they have a book up each month that they are reading and then have a live show with. It's run by lots of booktubers who particularly enjoy fantasy and sci-fi. If you want to know a little bit more about the read along, do have a look. I'm going to link it up here somewhere. I did a video on the Marmite read along because I call this a Marmite book. I think you either love it or you hate it. And thankfully, most of the people who were reading this did seem to love it, which was marvellous. And since then, I have seen other booktubers who have been enjoying it, like Angela from Literature Science Alliance has been really enjoying this series and is much further on than I am now. But anyway, I did finally reread this, and I'm so pleased that I gave this a reread because I had forgotten quite a lot of the details of what happens in here, which is not surprising because it's highly complex, which I think is one of the main reasons it is such a love it or hate it book. So I really enjoyed having a better grasp of the storyline. So I think when I first read this, I think it was like edging to a 4, but I couldn't quite give it a 4 because there were so many things that I needed to kind of nitpick at that frustrated me with this book. Like a character who we only meet kind of in the last part of the book, but is kind of, you see the connection of the protagonist seems to have this real fascination with her. And it felt really insta-lovey, and it just felt like I just don't care about this character. But reading this book this time, I have since met her in Name of All Things and absolutely love her. And I just appreciated this time round the huge complexities the author had to try and set up in this first book for the rest of the series. The second book feels a lot more kind of tighter and sort of all tied together, and you're doing less jumping around, like what's going on? You kind of know what you're expecting as well. So there are plot lines to do with gods, to do with this mythical race, not mythical, magical, fantastical race called Vane and their kind of history. The political royal families, shenanigans happening in the capital, the actual plot line of the protagonist Kiran and what he wants. So there is a lot going on. It's told on 2 different timelines. There's footnotes. It's all crazy, but I'm embracing, the first time around I totally embraced the chaos of all of this. I did enjoy it. But I kind of wished certain parts had been delivered slightly differently to give myself a better grasp on it. But having a huge affection for it now and having already read it, I'm just so here for the ride, and it did make a lot more sense on the reread. I started to kind of piece things together a bit more. and I kind of knew what I was expecting, so I wasn't totally thrown with a lot of stuff that was happening here. I found a lot of the characters really easy to love. The protagonist I didn't really connect to, and a lot of the characters I was like, I don't know how I'm supposed to feel about you, because like I'm getting lots of different vibes, there's lots of kind of grey areas happening, and I'm worried you're going to break my heart. But I think it took me for the first third to kind of go, okay, yes, I'm here. But second book, different set of characters, immediately connected them straight away. And obviously this time around I already know them, so I'm already kind of like invested in their story, and I'm really excited to see them all again. But there is a really big cast, and there's so many characters in this book I love. A lot of them I thought we had more time with, because I did really enjoy them, and like, oh, that was short. We don't really see you much after that, but they clearly left an impression on me. I really enjoy the tone of this book and kind of the narrative voice. It's quite sarky, it's quite snarky. There's a lot of like jokes where they're making fun of people, a lot of that kind of harsher banter, kind of being making kind of fun of yourself. There's all of that going on, and I really enjoy that kind of humour and the way the book is written. I enjoy the character writing the footnotes. I enjoy the two characters telling the story, and it's a huge amount of fun. I'm really so excited to be back in this world. I'm excited for this read along. I really want to pick up Name of All Things now and just keep going, but I have other commitments and I want to pass these readathons that I'm doing, so that will all have to wait till May. But I'm so pleased. I was really excited, looking forward to this, and it absolutely lived up to this. And yeah, I absolutely love it. It's definitely hit that 4-star mark for me this time round, and I'm having a great time. Did I talk about everything I wanted to? I'm just going to check my notes, because, you know, we're live. Yeah, no, all good. Yeah, so lots of complex plotting in this book, but so much fun. So much fun. So I am still plodding along with these two. So I've now read this much of The Two Towers, but I should definitely be able to finish this. I really need to finish this by the end of the month, because my subscription to Scribd will be stopping, because I don't listen to audiobooks enough for me to continue it. So I really need to get this listened to before then, because I'm listening to the Andy Serkis audiobook of this. I do want to try doing a little bit more immersion reading, where I'm reading it physically at the same time. Haven't found the time for that yet. Children go back to school tomorrow, so I'm hoping our life returns to slightly more normal than Easter chaos. So I'm hoping I might be able to find an evening where I can do that. But Andy Serkis's narration is amazing. I absolutely love all the voices he puts into and the way he tells the story. And I have now mapped out, as long as I listen to 2 hours a day, I will get this done by the end of the month. And then I'm also reading The Wife's Tale, which is part retelling her family history and part the history of Ethiopia, and what was happening at that time in general to where her family was living. Yeah, so it's tagged a personal history. So I think that I went into this weird bit of hair doing. Sorry, I've got a random wisp making me look like I've got an antennae. There we go. Stop trying to contact me, alien people. The Wife's Tale, I think I thought was going to be more of kind of like a biography or sort of a memoir, and we were going to have sort of more emotion in it. Whereas a personal history, it's more of a history with some focus on the human characters that she personally knew. And I think that's why I'm struggling with it a bit more, because just when you feel like you've reached a kind of emotional climactic moment with her grandmother and her grandma's life, and you're keen to see what happens next, obviously I think that the grandma who was giving her all the personal information to retell, or anecdotes that she'd had from family members, they then have no further information, and then it jumps to the next bit, or the gap is filled by history that was like prevalent until we have the next bit of the family history. So I found that quite jarring. Like I'm mainly a character reader rather than a plot reader. I want to feel the emotions of the characters. I want to get involved in their lives, and I get pulled in and then I kind of get thrown back out again. And I'm finding that a little bit hard going. I am going to persevere with it. I have mapped it all out. So I have I've started reading book 3, so I've read this bit, and the final bit I've blocked out into 5 different sections. So if I read each one a day, again, I will get this one finished as well. It is interesting, the history of Ethiopia around sort of like from the 1800s to we're just about to hit kind of Second World War zone. I think it's like the 40s we're about to hit. Yeah. So I've read from 1918 to 1942. And it is really interesting how like Ethiopia was that particular area of Ethiopia was invaded by the Italians, and how that all kind of panned out. And it was very interesting reading the back that the Ethiopia that her grandma grew up in, so different and almost like completely eradicated to the one that she grew up in. So I'm looking forward to kind of seeing those different things, but I am, because it is written like a history textbook at certain points, I am finding that a little bit dry, and I need more human emotion in there for me to really connect with it. But I'm keep persevering. Oh. And then the book that I started is Scythe by Neal Shusterman. So this is a YA dystopian series. It is a trilogy, and this is the first book. So there is another Discord chat. I haven't actually started talking to anyone yet about this because I've literally just been reading. But I'm hoping to like pop into the comments and have a chat with people about what they thought. So I've read this. So I'm about halfway, which is pretty good going. I'm really enjoying it. I'm really intrigued to see where it goes. Don't read the blurb. I'd say there's a mild spoiler in the blurb for kind of like a direction the story takes. Luckily, like I said, I like going in knowing as little as possible. I knew a rough idea of what the premise was, what this dystopian world was, and that enough people seem to really enjoy it for me to really want to get behind this series and read it. So I never read the blurb. But going in and starting to read, I was like, I wanted to kind of recall what certain things were said, and I read the blurb and I was like, oh my goodness, thank goodness I did not read that, because my emotional reaction and my like appreciation of the plotting would have plummeted having already known that that was going to happen, because it took me totally by surprise. If you've read this book, I'm referring to what happens when both characters attend like I think it's called the conclave, like where there's an elegy of scythes. There's an elegy of scythes, and there's like this general big kind of meeting, and it's the bombshell that is dropped on our protagonists at that point that I'm referring to. So I really enjoyed this. I will definitely be finishing this next week. So that's definitely 3 books that I'll be finishing. However, I do have other books that I want to start and read before the month finishes, so we will see how that goes. But now I'm going to update you on how I'm doing with the readathons. So that is the Magical Readathon Aurelium and the Realm of the Readathon, and I have the links to both of those down below. So Magical Readathon by G from Book Roast, and the Realm of the Readathon by Cassidy from Covers with Cassidy will be linked down below, as will all the books I'm talking about. So just going to pause and check on my children, and then I will be back to talk about those readathons. Okay, we're good. So for Ruin of Kings, I am reading this for my astronomy class that I am taking for the Magical Readathon. We will be studying the basics, which is asteroids and comets. And for that, we need to complete a book which is top of our TBR. So, as I was supposed to read this in March, and I'm the one that suggested this read along on Shelf Space, I felt that I really need to get going with the Ruin of Kings. So, definitely top of my TBR. And then for Realmathon, I realised I had totally got the wrong end of the stick. You were supposed to choose either increasing or decreasing, which I found out as I tried to submit my points. So I then watched the video to just confirm that, and yes, that is correct. Cassidy very clearly says that, and I just obviously whoop went over my head. So if you've been watching my weekly wrap-ups and that information is incorrect, I have not been able to take off those points. I've just increased Serene's. So I am going to use this to increase points because I feel that is going to get the most points for Serene. So these are all increasing points. And I am doing the Toast to the Goddess, which is Reader Cassidy fave, and this qualifies. So that is 4 points. And then Build a Training Ground, which is a book that has the apprentice trope. So in here we have apprentice musician, apprentice in magic, apprentice in sword fighting. There's a lot of apprenticeship stuff going on, so I feel that definitely qualifies for that. So that is plus 3 points. And then read a chunky book. For me, a chunky book is anything over 500 pages. This is 560, so it definitely qualifies. Also, that was Build a Castle, prompt is read a chunky book. And then medic training. Oh, and that was plus 3 points. Medic training, a book that has healing or mental health in here. So one of the political houses, the royal houses of the capital, House Dumont, where our protagonist finds himself involved with, they specialise in healing. So there is a lot of healing in this book. There's a lot of inflicting of things that needed to be healed in this book. And then finally, and that's plus 2 points. Sorry, parenting duties. Right, where have we got to? I think I said medic training with plus 2 points. And then the final one is parent and child relationship. So I can't remember what that was called. Anyway, the prompt was parent and child relationship. And there are a lot of parent and child relationships in here. Many unexpected ones as well. There's a lot of genealogy going on in here. And that is plus 2 points too. So there we go. Total of plus 14 points for Serene. As there are a lot of books that I want to get to next week, it could be a lot of wrapping up. So I am going to also talk about the Two Towers in terms of the readathons, because I'm very confident. It's an audiobook. I can listen to it on the go. I do tend to do a lot of walking for work and on the school runs, so I tend to enjoy listening as I walk. So I'm very confident that this will definitely get read. So as this one is a reread as well, I feel quite happy to put this book where it needs to be. So this book does not fit any of the prompts for my classes, sadly. Just going through them, it's not a short story, it's not a romance. Yeah, it's not going to fit the prompts I have left to cover. But it will, I can always fit things to it for Realmathon. So for this one, it was a lot harder to get some big earners for this book, but I've gone with decreasing. So, oh, also it isn't, I could feel that this could fit into both the military fantasy category and the whimsical fantasy category. I feel whimsical slightly more of a wild card, but I just feel this whole trilogy has such an affinity with storytelling and lore and being part of stories and such a love of nature in it that it really does give me those whimsical vibes. But we have some big battle scenes in here as well, and there is war is brewing. They are very much going to war in this book, so I very much feel this does definitely fit into the military fantasy category. I will of course be checking, but if so, I think that is plus 10 points separately to the extra 5 you can get. But obviously I need to check these things out because clearly I don't have a clue what's going on. But anyway, for the 5 points for decreasing, I have gone for Oh yeah, In the Trenches, continuous series. This is the second book in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, so that one definitely works. Magic Warfare, so reading a book with magical weapons or magical warfare. I very much feel that the One Ring definitely counts as a magical weapon. The allies, to all intents and purposes, do not want to use it, but nor do they want Sauron to use it. He would definitely use it as a magical weapon. So I feel that definitely counts. So that's -2. What have I written here? Oh yeah, betray an alliance. So either an alliance being betrayed or characters that are orphans. So again, Lord of the Rings superfans, I'm sure you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Aragorn's parents are dead. Éowyn and Éomer's parents are dead, so they're definitely orphans. And Frodo is also an orphan, although, you know, he very much has this wonderful parental father-child kind of relationship with Bilbo. Bilbo is his uncle, and his parents are both dead, so he's definitely an orphan. So that qualifies. And that is -3 points. Seek Aid. So that is an author or a book set in the same country you reside in. I reside in the UK. Tolkien was from the UK. -2 points. And finally, War Veteran. So that is a TBR veteran. So I did many videos last year that never got published. But one of the things I did was I set myself different books that I wanted to reread and different books that I'd never read before that I wanted to read. And within the rereads, this trilogy was the books that I wanted to read last year and never did. So I definitely think that counts, because I had put it on my list of plans for last year and totally failed. So that definitely counts as a TBR veteran, and that's -3 points. So that gives us a total of, unless my maths is faulty, which could definitely be something, -11. So a total of -11 points for me to take either from Escana or from Calamis. And as Vanania Silverscribe commented, take them away from Calamis on my video last time. And I haven't taken any points away from anyone yet. So these points will be going to be taken away from Calamis, which I have discovered in the Realmathon Discord chat are currently in the lead. So we definitely need to take away points from them. So yes, Calamis, you will be deducted 11 points. Whether or not it makes a difference, who knows? But every little helps. So those are my books from this week. So as far as the rest of the month is looking, I've got a lot of reading to do to finish my magical education and pass my exams. So far for if I want to go down the Dreamwalker's career, I've read 3 books. I'm currently reading 1 and I've got 3 to go. As far as the Rift Architect, I've read 2 books. I'm currently reading 2 and I've got 1 to go. So that feels a lot more possible. But covering all of them, I've got 3 books, these 3 books here to finish. And then I've got 2 more books for Dreamwalker, and then 1 more book that is for both Dreamwalker and Rift Architect. So we'll see. So that's a total of 6 books. So finishing 3, starting and finishing another 3. Let's see if I can do it. Probably not, but I'm going to give it a really good go. Please do chat to me down in the comments about any of these books, what you've been reading this week, if you're participating in these readathons and how it's going. If you think I can do it, give me your moral support, and I will see you in my next video. Happy reading, everyone.